Hello, welcome back to Buckle Up. My name's Jasper and this is the Honda HRV, and today I'm going to find out if this is a crossover that's really worth buying. This generation of HRV is a massive change from the previous one, with so much better styling all round. And we'll start having a look at the front. You'll notice your front and centre Honda badge with the blue surround on it. That means that this has a hybrid powertrain. Which hybrid powertrain, you might ask? Well, it's the E:/HEV. More about that later. General styling though, it does look like they've stolen the design of headlamp clusters from the previous generation of Hyundai Tucson, but they are unique to this car. I really like the subtle dips in the bonnet, and there's also this gorgeous line that follows round from the bonnet all the way round the front of the car to the other side. Really nice, smooth, clean piece of design work. This grille as well is gorgeous. These slats across the front of the car that are very small and evenly spaced, very good again. Nice bits of gloss plastic towards the bottom, as well as a functional in the centre diamond shaped grille. So yeah, on the whole, at the front of the car, certainly quite striking and unique, and definitely all very well tied together. This is also Honda's first M Sport model, because it is sporting colours that do seem to be suspiciously similar to those of us familiar with BMW's styling packages. Not actually really sure what they are, but nice little design touch, I guess. Daytime running lights are the strike across the top of the headlamp cluster, and of course all LED lamps up here, so very good headlight capability. Continuing to look at the styling down the side of the car, you'll notice that the pinched element at the edge of the headlamp cluster actually continues in a line throughout the entire side of the vehicle. Really nicely thought out. Down here you've got lovely 18-inch diamond cut gloss black alloy wheels, which are a very good design and really set off nicely against the black plastic cladding around the wheel arch. This gives the car a slightly chunky off-road type feel, and you'll actually notice down here that it's got a reasonable amount of ground clearance, but despite being lifted up from the underside, it's not actually that tall. So this is a hatchback form factor that has just been shifted up slightly. It's not really full kind of crossover, big, tall car, and I quite like it for that. This gloss black plastic cladding continues along the bottom of the doors and actually has a bright red kind of strike through it, which adds a little bit of zhuzh to the side of the car. And while we're here, it's probably also worth mentioning this paint colour. It is very nice in the sun. It certainly looks better in the sun than it does in the overcast weather we've had this morning. But yeah, this kind of pale green metallic, very nice. Gloss black plastic mirror caps, which matches all very nicely with your wheels and trim, and also the floating roofline, but it's floating from the front. When you get to the back, to your D pillar, to your C pillar, when you get to the back to the C pillar, you've actually got body colour all the way up to the top of the window line, really, at which point the gloss black roof trim continues over. When you get to the back of the car, you'll see the light clusters actually curve round, and you've got a light bar across the boot of this car. Now, you've got body colour above and below, but this is a clear plastic, so I don't mind the design too much. And when you've got the lights on, this whole section glows. Again, better than a T-Cross. I will die on this hill. What you will also notice at the back is that the glass on the tailgate has quite a shallow angle on it, but you've got a very vertical rear section, and what this means is that the actual profile of the car does retain traditional SUV type styling. It's boxy where it needs to be to retain practicality, because generally you only fill your boot up to the level of the glass, and that section of this boot is a really square shape. Other things that are carried around from the side is the black gloss plastic trim, which continues all the way around the vehicle essentially. On the boot lid, we have obviously the Honda badge in the centre, as well as the HEV, which tells you about the powertrain that this car has, and the car's model badge, which is HRV, which according to Honda stands for High Rider, hyphenated, Revolutionary Vehicle. And for some reason they put the hyphen there. But you will also notice that the boot drops to quite a low level, and what this means is that actually it's a really practical opening to put your stuff in. This is at just the right level for me, a short arse, to pick bags up and slide in with no trouble whatsoever. Now, the boot capacity in this, while it's a good shape, isn't actually that large. It's only 304 litres in this model, and that is because the subwoofer over here takes up a little bit of width. So if you didn't have this fitted, you might actually be able to get a set of golf clubs in here if you really want to. Now, if you fold down both of the rear seats, you are met with 1,274 litres of space, which is actually pretty good. You've got a really long load bay, and if you didn't have this optional boot tray in, it is actually a completely flat floor from the lip, the very small lip here, all the way to the back of the front seats. So yeah, a very practical shape of load bay. But the seats in this do not just fold down, they also fold up. What? Magic seats, baby! Coming back round to the side of the car to get into the rear seats, you'll go, oh no, it's only a 3-door. Wait, what? It's got those hidden high up door handles, which do certainly look better, but aren't necessarily as practical as a door handle here, but they're definitely better for economy and aerodynamics. So the reason you get a completely flat load floor when you fold the seats down is the bases of the seats actually drop away as you fold them forward, and that is part of the magic seat design. So if I swing this up, you'll see that the base of the seats actually rises up to meet where you would sit on it, but that's not everything, because these seats are magic. They fold up and you can lock them in place. So what that means is if you've got something that's quite wide and quite tall that wouldn't fit in the boot, you can actually pop these seats up and put it in the rear seat area of the car. Not great if you've got to move more than 2 people at the same time, but hey ho, you know, we move. That's all well and good, but what are these seats actually like to sit in? Let's find out. The back seats are comfortable. You've got a really good array of materials back here, some nice fake leather and some gorgeous fabric and interesting patterns on the outer seats, and you've actually got quite a lot of space. The roofline of the car does begin to drop away a little bit at the back, so that does mean that any taller passengers might begin to struggle for headroom, but if you're slouching, you'd be absolutely fine. I've got acres of legroom, but that's because I'm quite short, so this driver's seat is quite a long way forwards, but even if you had a very tall driver, you would still have a really good amount of legroom back here because the cabin in this is quite long. Now you've got lovely materials again on the door cards, some gloss black plastic and a bottle holder in a really accessible location rather than faffing around somewhere else. You've got a centre armrest with another 2 cup holders in it, so 4 cup holders for your 2 rear passengers if you've got the middle seat folded down. And you've got some air vents down here as well as 2 USB Type A ports. Large speakers in the lower sections of the door panels and little tweeters up near the door handle. Now this is quite a tactile plastic up here, which is a bit of a weak spot, but on the whole the materials and fit and finish back here is really good. You've got seat back pockets in both the front seats, as well as a section that is actually quite well sized to stick a mobile phone in if you've got some music playing and just need to kind of tuck your phone somewhere. Very good. And crucially, the floor of this car is almost flat, so it's a really nice usable flat space. You're not going to have to faff around if you have got 3 people in here with a great big hump in the middle of the floor. It's actually, you know, really good shape to get 3 people in. Now the middle seat is very slim, and it's one of those seat belts that you pull out from the ceiling, so really 4 seats and a 5th for shorter journeys if needed. But seats are really comfy and the space back here is very nice. Let's see if that continues up front. Indeed it does. This is a very well laid out, spacious and quite airy cabin. The dashboard is a lovely design, kind of two-tone and layered as well, with your climate controls front and centre really accessible, and they're all manual, including heated seat controls. Really nice to see. You've got 2 different areas to stick a phone into, so if you've got a work phone and a personal one, you can stick whichever one you need to down here. There's a wireless charger, and this system does wireless Apple CarPlay, but you can also plug in to do CarPlay or Android Auto if you desire. The layout is very nicely thought out, with practical controls for air vents up along the top of the dashboard and a good array of usable cubby spaces. So you've got the 2 for phones or little things here. You've got a really quite good sized glove box as well, and you've got pockets in the doors which will fit a bottle in, as well as some other tidbits, a pair of cup holders in the centre, and an armrest here which has again a usable decent sized cubby in it, so box of tissues or whatever other bits and pieces you like to keep with you in your car, you could definitely fit them in here. Now you've got some really nice colours within this interior as well. There's a brushed matte finish bronzy red colour surrounding the gear selector, and you've got your handbrake, hill descent control, a couple of drive mode selectors down here, and your standard automatic gear shift in the centre. You've got a 9-inch infotainment screen front and centre, which is a really clear and easy to use system and has the aforementioned Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The gauge cluster has one physical needle, but the actual display behind it and everything else is digital, so there's a bit of configurability there, and it will change colours depending on the drive mode you got selected, and you can also display a few different extra bits of information such as sat nav instructions and vehicle settings, etc. in here. Now you've got a power switch to the right of the steering wheel and a massive rocker to adjust the brightness of that driver's cluster to the left hand side. All of the control surfaces are really nice. They've got a satisfying clunk to them when you use them, and you've got paddles behind the steering wheel which adjust the level of regenerative braking you have. On the whole, really well laid out cabin, few premium materials in here, everything's really well built and thought out. You've got large door speakers down here and tweeters on the A-pillars up front. The sound system in this actually sounds really good, so another plus point for Honda there. Good layout, good sound system. Let's see if the driving experience stacks up as well. Now, the HRV has an eHEV powertrain, and yes, that means it is a hybrid electric vehicle drive powertrain. However, it's not a hybrid powertrain like any other, because yes, there's a petrol engine, but it doesn't drive the wheels, except for when it does. So, hear me out on this one. Honda have connected the engine to an electric motor generator. The engine drives that generator, which in turn drives an electric motor, which drives the wheels. Unless you are doing high-speed, low-demand driving, such as on a motorway, in which case a single-speed gear connects the engine directly to the driven axle, the front wheels. So this means that your engine doesn't drive the wheels unless it does. That's how I get to that phrase. Now, the powertrain is also capable of running in EV mode only, and that's because you have a battery under the rear seats. Now, you can't go particularly far on this battery. It is by nature a full hybrid powertrain, but you certainly can go up to about 40 kilometers an hour solely on batteries. So if you're doing just urban driving, it's quite possible to do short journeys entirely on battery power alone. Now, that's not the primary purpose of this powertrain, though. This powertrain is essentially designed to be a normal hybrid setup. So you put petrol in it, and that's all you need to fuel the car with. The batteries are charged using the engine and regenerative braking. So at high speeds, when the engine is directly driving the front wheels, at high speed motorway driving, for example, the engine at that point, when it's directly driving the front wheels, is also charging up your battery. So you've got two motors, one of which operates as a motor generator, and the engine. So it's a complex powertrain. It's not like most other, if not any other hybrid system that's out there. It's not a plug-in hybrid because you cannot just charge the batteries, and it's not a mild hybrid where you've got a starter generator that just gives you a little bit more oomph as you set off. It's a proper hybrid setup, but done very differently. And the long and short of that is that it's actually a very competent powertrain. It's incredibly smooth because the power is delivered only by the electric motor under general driving, and as a result, it's actually a very seamless and enjoyable driving experience. The car's certainly responsive enough. It's relatively torquey, about 256 Newton meters, but it's not overly powerful. So all models have a 1.5 litre normally aspirated petrol engine, but they are driven by the electric motor, and your peak power output is 107 brake horsepower, 109 PS. So it's not a tremendously powerful car, but it doesn't need to be. It's a relatively small sized crossover. The fact that you're not too high up means that you hold the road quite nicely, and you also get a reasonable amount of feel and feedback through to your hands. It's actually a relatively enjoyable driving experience. It's certainly nothing like a conventional auto, and thank goodness it's not a CVT system. Road holding is very good. It feels planted. It's very easy to place because you can see the corners of the bonnet, and rear visibility is also pretty good when there's no rear passengers. If you had rear passengers, I imagine that rear visibility would become a bit rubbish because the rear screen is certainly quite sloped, and as a result, there's not actually that much space to see through back there. Forwards and sideways visibility is excellent, and your wing mirrors are massive, so that means that actually you get a really good view down the sides of the car. If I put my foot down coming out of this into a national speed limit, the engine kicks right in and revs up and holds a rev range momentarily, but it doesn't rev up and stay at a consistent number of revs. You get a petrol driving experience in a far more conventional sense. So it's an intrusive rev, but it's not a CVT rev where it revs up and then holds the rev range. The chassis in this is very good. The steering is certainly communicative, and if you put the driving mode into sport, it weights up beautifully, and you get a really good feel for where the car's pointing, and certainly the way it holds the road and the feedback you get through to your hands also very good. Now, if you put it in sport, your throttle response is improved, and also the regenerative braking is upped. So when you lift off the throttle, you feel yourself slowing down more. You can, of course, adjust that regenerative effect using the paddles on the steering wheel. Left-hand paddle gives you more regen, right-hand paddle gives you less. So if you knock your regen all the way off, it's quite a conventional style driving experience where you lift off and can coast almost. All of the controls in here are really easy to understand. They're well placed, and Honda do this thing where they put massive text on each function to actually tell you what it does. So it is really easy to use and understand all of these controls. They've all got a really positive feel to them as well, so they satisfyingly clunk into position. but that doesn't mean they feel agricultural at all. It's a very well put together and usable interior. Now, 109 brake horsepower is not that much, and this car it's light enough, but it's a hybrid powertrain and there's a decent sized battery at the back, so unfortunately it is a little bit hefty, and that 109 brake horsepower doesn't necessarily stretch too far. If this had the same 2-litre engine that the Civic had, it would certainly feel pretty quick. 0 to 62 takes a shade over 10 seconds in this, so it's by no means what you could describe as fast, but because of the EV powertrain or EV style driving experience, you could describe it as nippy. That set-off is very good. Now, the aim of this system is to give you more benefits than you would get with a conventional hybrid system, because you have a slightly larger battery pack and the drivetrain delivery is different, but you're also wanting to try and keep some of the benefits you get with a plug-in hybrid powertrain without the potential inconvenience of having to plug it in and charge it up. So, is the HRV, a crossover, actually worth you spending some money on? Yeah, it is. I think it's probably the best looking small crossover. Love the design, and the driving experience and powertrain are actually a little bit revolutionary and certainly actually quite good. This car as an overall purchase is absolutely something I could recommend. Great driving experience, really good interior, pretty good materials, and certainly a good looking car to boot. That's everything for me in today's video. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do it in one of 3 ways. You can check out our merch store where you can buy some lovely merchandise. You can also become a Patreon, or you can become a channel member here on YouTube, or give us some thanks. That's a new thing you can do as well. All of our social medias are linked in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. The T-Cross doesn't have a light bar, it's just a reflector in disgusting black plastic cladding.
On Sunday.
I was here, wasn't I?
Yeah, and you were stroking the side of the car. Oh, I thought are you going from the start?
The boot lid goes quite a long way down, and what that means is it's actually a really practical... Oh, there's loads of shit in it. Isn't there?
Amazing.
Shall we maybe move all of the shit out?
It was on that top bit again. We use the smaller figure.
1274.
1274.
That's good.
That's more than the Civic.
Well, I think it's longer.
Yes, and it probably
and
has
it's
a slightly taller cabin.
Taller, yeah.
Oh, this is still rolling, by the way.
Yeah, 304, wasn't it?
Yeah.
1274.